One of the easiest ways to begin using VoiceThread is to use it in your week one discussion with your students. Not only will they get to know you better, but also they can add comments and they can create their own voice threads. If you have a document that you cover during each course and you seem to have many student questions about it, you can simply upload that file, whether it's a Word document or a PDF, and then go through the explanation out loud, narrating your recording, and then allow students to ask questions about that. Then you go back and answer them. If you have any material that you use repeatedly from course to course, you may consider uploading that PowerPoint or those images to a VoiceThread and then narrating your lecture slide by slide. And then you could keep it as a VoiceThread and allow students to comment on any slides that they had questions on, or you could export it as a video. One advantage to using a VoiceThread that is exported as a video is that if you have any material in your course that changes from year to year, such as, let's say, the countries that are here in the Middle East, maybe their borders change, or tax laws change and you teach a finance course, then if you need to just edit one small portion of the video, you go back to your original VoiceThread, you edit only that slide, and you re-export it as a video. You don't have to do the entire video all over. Using any kind of media is not new when we're talking about flipped lessons. However, I wanted to point this one out because as you notice, this is the same VoiceThread from one side to the other. The instructor is wearing different clothes, has a different haircut. This is an example of one of those situations where there are new rules or something needed to be changed, and he didn't have to go back and change his entire video or his entire VoiceThread. He simply redid a portion of it, pushed that out front for the students to view before he met with them, and ta-da, he's got a flipped lesson. VoiceThread can completely replace any discussion that you have in any week. Simply upload a slide or an image, ask your question either on the slide or using your voice, and have students respond in the comments on the VoiceThread instead of responding in the discussion thread with text. VoiceThread is a natural tool to use for student presentations. Students simply upload their slides like they would for a PowerPoint, or they upload some images. They go through their narration just like they would for a narrated PowerPoint. And like a PowerPoint, they can redo the narration on any slide that they wish. Now, VoiceThread is web-based, it's cloud-hosted, so their VoiceThread will be there for years to come. I have a VoiceThread that is nearly 20 years old right now. It's still there. Also, their VoiceThread can be exported to a video for use in a professional portfolio or for showing to a prospective employer. This is my favorite quote-unquote new way to use VoiceThread. I just learned about this. I think it's really cool. You can upload a simple question, turn on comment moderation, which means that the students' comments are only heard by you, not by the other students. It's a simple way to do a quick check for understanding or a quiz. Notice that in this example, at the very top, it says there are 22 questions. That would be a really long time to sit and listen to a lot of students, unless you were careful in your directions to ask them to limit their comments to 15 seconds or less. But it is a really cool way to use this. When our faculty who piloted VoiceThread a couple years ago first started using it, I was fascinated with how many creative ways they came up with to try to integrate other tools. This is a math teacher, I think she teaches algebra, and she incorporated fluid math using various cables and all kinds of other things to be able to write right on a whiteboard on VoiceThread and record as she was talking, because obviously she has to explain this process an awful lot of times in an algebra course. I thought this was pretty neat, and then I discovered something even cooler. This professor did pretty much the same thing, except he created one slide on the left that told the students what they were going to do, and then he created another slide on the right, which was simply a blank white PowerPoint slide. Then he used the mobile app on his tablet and a stylus to be able to write right on the mobile application in VoiceThread, and he accomplished the same thing without all the bells, whistles, software, cables, everything else. Pretty cool. This is just another example of how VoiceThread can engage your students. This student uploaded their paper for review. The professor gave some suggestions, used the doodle tool to form a bracket off there to the right, underline a few things, make another comment on the side. This is just a little more personal than the written comments that might appear on a graded assignment. Using your webcam in conjunction with VoiceThread is a really powerful tool if you want to demonstrate how to do things. Now, this upper left-hand corner example is how to use a brush in some sort of a painting class, but I recall recently that there was a professor who demonstrated to his students how to unpack their electronic circuitry kit or something like that that was sent to them and what they were supposed to do with each of those pieces. Of course, students can also use their webcam to demonstrate ability to do something for your course. They could also use their phone to record the video and then upload that video to VoiceThread to demonstrate to you that they know how to do something. Again, if you turn on comment moderation, the students can do this for you privately without the rest of the class seeing, or if you want everyone to be able to see, just leave comment moderation off. Another incredibly powerful factor in using VoiceThread is the ability to invite someone who's an expert to Skype with your class or even record just some selections from a lecture. Then you go ahead and post those into a VoiceThread and students are able to comment, ask questions back and forth, and perhaps your expert would be able to respond to them as well. Other considerations. 1. Use VoiceThread to explain an assignment, adding the rubric and the examples right in the VoiceThread. Allow students to ask their questions about the assignment by commenting directly on that VoiceThread, and then you can answer them. Number 2, when considering the use of a video, ask yourself if the video could be presented in smaller chunks on different VoiceThread slides, allowing students to interact with the material and you as the information is being presented. Consider the same question with really lengthy chunks of text. VoiceThread is ideal for a number of assignments, including group projects. But let me show you what happens if you don't use VoiceThread in your week 1 discussion first. So let's say that I have logged in here to Canvas and I go to my course, which this time is called Canvas Faculty Training, but of course your course will be here instead. Once in the course, all students and all faculty need to click on VoiceThread in order to be quote-unquote registered by VoiceThread under the license that we have with them. Just a side note, if you are an experienced VoiceThread user and you had a VoiceThread account before you started using Canvas, you will be asked to provide a password. This is a little confusing, but it's really only 3 or 4 steps. If you want directions or a help sheet on that, check out the student resource page that says password issues, or check out the Center for Teaching Excellence, which explains the same thing. Okay, so here we have an example of a situation in which the professor has assigned a group project, and these students are going to work together on this project. Notice that we have 3 students that are named Devira, Ella, and Jake. Now, either you as a professor can assign these students and create this slide, or really, students are capable of doing this by themselves. Tell them who's in their group, and one of them will take the lead and create a slide like this. Directions on how to create a very first VoiceThread are on the student resource pages. In this situation, our student Devira, she's a type A student, she decided she was going to create this. You notice that when we look at it, it has the play button. She created it on February 6th. There's only one view, see that eye up there, and there are 0 comments so far because nobody's done anything. You also notice that she hasn't yet been able to share it. That's the arrow here. And then there are some other things that we could opt into later. When Devira created this slide, she went ahead and she clicked on the share button. You notice there's the 3 little bars at the top. That's a drop-down menu. Then she's able to click on the share option. And then this screen would show up, and instead of Canvas faculty training, it would say your course name. And then there would be a little area underneath that says members. She's going to click on that. That gives her this screen, which shows Jenny, who in this case is the course professor. There's Devira, there's Ella, and there's somebody named Steve from the course, but there's no Jake. Jake is not in this list because he did not click on VoiceThread on the left navigation bar before this group project was assigned. This cripples the group in their progress at this point. And that's one of the reasons that it's so important to use VoiceThread in your week 1 introduction, non-graded but required, to get students into VoiceThread. You can tell from the they completed or didn't completed check mark in the gradebook whether or not they actually logged into VoiceThread. This will prevent people like Devira from having problems adding people to her group. So right now, all she can do is she can click on Ella, who did register, and she can click on Ella on the right, and then notice where it says allow them to view comments. She's going to want to add edit because she's a group project member, and then click share. Once Devira completes these steps, she gets this nice little screen that says success. So now at this point, Devira and Ella can work on the group project, but Jake can't. Few notes about group projects. As the students work on the project, they can use VoiceThread for asynchronous discussion about what to do first, next, etc. They can keep discussing this back and forth, delete each other's comments, add each other's slides. And if you require them to share all rights with you while they are working, you can quote-unquote check in on their progress and offer helpful hints, general guidance, or steer them back to the right path. Finally, and I think this is my favorite part of the group project thing, after all of that behind the scenes work has been done by the students and you've provided the feedback along the way with your own comments in their VoiceThread, the students can delete all of the existing comments, their discussion about the project, progress, yours too, and narrate over the existing slides to create a final presentation. Note that this could be shared with the entire class at that time for feedback, or also the final presentation could be exported to an MP4 file for use in an e-portfolio and to be shared with current or potential employers. Don't forget to remind your students that their APA citations can also be uploaded as a PDF or Word file directly into VoiceThread. That could be their final slide for that particular VoiceThread or video. Okay, just to recap, 3 tips for successful VoiceThread assignments. 1, require students to use VoiceThread to introduce themselves in the week 1 discussion. Why? Because everybody has to click on that VoiceThread button in the left nav bar first before trying to do anything else in VoiceThread. This is how VoiceThread registers you and your students in that course. The second part of that reason is the week 1 discussion is not graded, but it's required. It's a great non-threatening situation in which to learn how to use the tool. Another recap, if you plan to link to or embed a VoiceThread in a discussion page or an assignment, consider creating a VoiceThread to explain the assignment and show the rubric and provide examples of what's exemplary, acceptable, and Not so great. Students can comment and ask questions right there on that voice thread, and you can respond right back to their questions there. Last recap. Remember, there are two really huge advantages of VoiceThread over video, just as a beginning tool. First of all, the simulation of a real-time conversation. You say something while you're talking about an image or a slide. The students ask a question, or they say, aha, didn't know that. It goes back and forth. We simulate a synchronous conversation, even though they're talking to you at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're talking to them at 7 a.m. in the morning. Doesn't matter. It still feels like a conversation in VoiceThread. Second big reason, the ease of editing any material for reuse. You can take out one slide, you can replace the comments on one slide. You can take out all comments on your week 1 introduction from term to term to term and just reuse the same thing over and over again. It's very simple. So that is the flexibility, and that's the advantage over using VoiceThread from just recording a straight video. It's very flexible, and I hope you find that it's useful to you.